Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. If you have a home keyboard or a DAW with software instruments built into it, you've seen presets or patches, buttons called electric piano, Clav, Wurly, maybe even Rhodes, B-3, rock organ, etc. What are they? They're imitations of electromechanical keyboard instruments of the past. And let's take a little overview of those today. So I've at one time or other owned the actual physical objects of all these keyboards we'll be talking about today, or at least some version of them. And I'm here to tell you that the digital recreations, whether they're sampled or virtual, of these instruments have gotten very, very close to the original, but they'll never be able to accurately model the weird intricacies of all the things that are happening at once. Let's take a look at what an electromechanical instrument is. Well, everybody knows the electric guitar. And the electric guitar is an electromechanical instrument. Something mechanical happens. A string vibrates. You're not hearing it very loud because it's not plugged in. The strings vibrate over these pickups, which are actually magnets. And as the string vibrates over the magnet, it generates a small voltage. The voltage is different depending on the vibration. That tiny voltage is sent out through the electronics, knobs, things like that, to a cable and an amplifier and a speaker. That's what makes the sound. It's a mechanical instrument. It's got electrics. It's an electromechanical instrument. The first electromechanical keyboard I bought was this. So my first electromechanical instrument was the Rhodes. And the Rhodes works the way a lot of electromechanical instruments do. Each of these keys has a hammer just like a piano, an escapement, and the hammer hits a tine, and the tine has a little electromechanical pickup on it. Well, the Rhodes piano found an enormous audience right away. And it comes from a fellow named Harold Rhodes, who originally started making small electric keyboards right after World War II in order to provide a physical therapy experience for veterans in a hospital. He made them from spare airplane parts. And the sound of the instrument has a lot to do with the fact that those metal tines have a bell-like quality. Classic Rhodes sounds include the sound of electric piano from Donald Fagen, the Steely Dan keyboard player, George Duke, and the beautiful sound of the electric piano on Miles Davis albums, In a Silent Way, for instance, or Around the Block. All these electrofusion albums used basically Rhodes. If you hear a jazz player playing an electric piano, it's almost certainly a Rhodes. Research them in more detail. The guts of them is fascinating. Well, the other electric piano patch that you have that's an electromechanical patch on your keyboard is the Wurlitzer or the Wurly. And the Wurly A200 was kind of a classic instrument that got used by just dozens of rock keyboard players. It has a slightly more driven sound, and it's more muted. Classic sounds might be like Heard It Through the Grapevine. Probably should be down an octave. Yeah. Right, that sound there. Or if we added a little bit of tremolo to it, that Ray Charles sound. The Wurlitzer electric piano works on the same principle as the Rhodes. Metal tines are struck by a hammer, and it's got an escapement. In other words, the key goes down and it throws a hammer, just like a piano, at the metal tine. The Rhodes is tuned by twisting these little springs on the tines. The Wurlitzer, harder to tune. You actually have to file solder off the tine or maybe drop a little bit on it. It's insane. Do a deeper dive on them. They're nuts, right? Well, electromechanical keyboards, that we've looked at so far have used tines, metal bars, but one of the great classic sounds in the electromechanical world is this instrument on top here, the Hohner Clavinet. Now, the Hohner Clavinet uses strings, and in many respects, it's like an electric guitar. Strings go over a pickup, and you get this kind of funky sound. Well, the funky sound, let's see. Right, use me up is that sound. Or maybe Stevie Wonder's Superstition. The clavinet works a little bit differently. A hammer doesn't throw at a string. Rather, the key is directly connected to a foot, which hammers down onto the string in order to get it vibrating. What that means for the player is, and this is a terrific effect, the key allows you to get a little vibrato on the string. Nuts, right? To take it even further, contemporary clavinet players like Lackey Doley from Australia have attached whammy bars to their clav. Look up whammy clav. Dooley's an amazing keyboard player. And he bends strings. A clavinet through a distortion pedal and a wah-wah is just as funky as anything you've ever heard. Well, let's go on. The last electromechanical instrument I want to talk about is from the Hammond Organ Company, and it's the classic sound of the Hammond B-3. And it also uses a slightly different technology. Within the back of this instrument here, which has two manuals, as you can see, and drawbars to control the sound, are spinning wheels, which have teeth which go past a magnet. I have a whole video on the B-3. We'll talk a little bit more about it. And that gives you the sound, the classic sound of the Hammond organ. The spinning wheels allow you to add harmonics to every tone by pulling a drawbar in and out. And on most models of these things, it actually shows you the drawbars. And you see this thing spinning in the inside? Well, that's not the spinning wheel that I'm talking about. That's a spinning wheel in this cabinet here. That cabinet is a speaker, the Leslie speaker. The Leslie speaker works this way. There's a couple of drivers, a treble one and a bass one, and each driver is coupled to a rotating horn or drum. The drum is down here. You can't see it in the picture. And it actually does, using the Doppler effect, spins the sound out of the cabinet, and you get this warbly, wacky effect. I mean, who thought of this? Well, we know actually who thought of it, but it's an amazing effect. Here, slow it down and stop it. And we're also hearing a little bit of chorus, so that's wobbly, and then fast. Super, right? Oh my God. Well, this has been a quick survey, and I don't want to go into it in detail, but each of these instruments deserves more attention from us. Electromechanical instruments were the sort of breakthrough keyboard for keyboard players in the 70s, and they were replaced by digital simulations of them. The digital simulations are good, but as you can imagine, each electromechanical instrument has its own character. components fail, they change over time, and that change creates color character. A good instrument has character, and any good performer will work with that character. I miss the several Rhodes instruments I've owned. I left my Wurlitzer electric piano at a gig in New Jersey because I was leaving New York. I was done with it. I sold my clavinet to Kurzweil Systems, and my clavinet, I think, is the clavinet that they use to create samples for all of their keyboards in the 90s. That makes me feel happy. I actually have a couple of Kurzweil sample boards that have clavinet samples from my clavinet in them. Yay. I had a Baby B, the Hammond M1, in my studio here in Oakland for quite a while. That was a blast. It's great to have a tone wheel organ, but they are all beasts to maintain, to move, to manage. Nobody makes them anymore. Oh, that's not true. Rhodes is now owned by a company in Leeds, and they're putting them out. They'll make 500 apparently this year. So there's going to be new Rhodes keyboards. Yay. How much is it going to cost? I think it's like £8,000 or so. It's a lot of money. And they're so hard to lug around. Well, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe. It's coming up to the end of the year. Coming up to my 1,000 subscriber goal. I think we're going to make it. Super exciting. Martin Heidenreich and I are going to release the Silent Night video compilation very soon. Thrilling for me. He says it's going to be really long. We'll see. He's editing it right now. Well, I'll see you next time.